This is the second part of the video about ritual tools. The first part we talked about the 4 basic ritual tools corresponding to the elements of air, fire, water, earth, and we talked about their energetic uses as well as their physical uses. Now we're going to talk about some secondary tools, and now I have to say about tools. Tools are not necessary. Tools are something that are useful, are helpful. If you have a can and you can open it without a can opener, do you still need a can opener? No. So same thing with these tools. If you feel confident, comfortable, able to do what you need to do, then there's no reason that you need these tools. Now, again, it's up to you. I like a lot of tools. I like to be able to do a lot of stuff. So I have a lot of tools. So previously we talked about Athame wand, chalice, and ultra pentacle. Now we're going to talk about some secondary tools. So here is a little stone bowl that I have, and the stone bowl I used for holy water. So you can use anything. You can use glass, plastic, metal, whatever you want to use. Just a little bowl here for holy water. Here I have my libation bowl. This is a really nice glazed handmade bowl that was gifted to me. I use that for my libation. So after I perform liquid offerings, I put them in here and then I dispose of them respectfully outside. Then I also have a dish. Again, this one was gifted to me, hand glazed, handmade. This I use for solid offerings. If I'm giving cookies, crackers, cakes, whatever, as a solid offering, I'll put it on here and leave it on the altar. I also have, there are a plethora of incense burners you can use. You can use stick incense burners, cone incense burners, braziers, all sorts of different incense burners. I have some really nice incense burners. Of course, I can't use them all the time. The one that I use predominantly is this one. This is my swinging censer. It's also called a thurible. And it is used, just like any other incense burner. You put the incense inside of there, and then you swing it. It's really easy to direct the incense, to direct the energy, whatever you need to do. I really like this one. I can put multiple cone. I prefer to use cone incense, and I put multiple cone incense in there, and when one goes out, I just light another one. So there's that. Of course, I have my cauldron. Here's my cauldron. Pretty plain, pretty basic, cauldron. Now the cauldron is used for a lot of different things, and so it's really hard to kind of pinpoint. A lot of people will refer to the cauldron as either the element of water or the element of spirit. The element of water because, again, you can put water in here, you can do whatever, but also the element of spirit because the cauldron is sort of a representation of the womb of the goddess, the creation of magic, the center from which everything flows. So it's sometimes referred to as the element of spirit. I actually have two cauldrons. Is that plural? I don't know. This one here I use for more ceremonial or magical purposes, and the other one is not so pretty. I use that one pretty much for refuse, used threads or used paper or used matches or whatever. I'll just put it in that one and discard it later. So I have two different ones. If you are more of a Celtic pagan or have more of a Celtic Wiccan pantheon that you practice in, more than likely you'll be using the cauldron a lot because the cauldron features into their mythos very frequently. So I could see maybe in the Norse tradition maybe using a cauldron too, like the cauldron of inspiration or something, but generally I've seen it used more so in Celtic practices. And then for anyone who uses a lot of sage, there is I have my sage here. It's a little stand, and then on it is my little shell with my little sage on it. That's an option. You don't have to use it. You can use a bowl, a fire-safe dish or something to put your sage on, but I like that. So those are some basic tools. You can also use musical tools, and so you have things like the bell. That's my bell. I have like 3 different bells. I have one bell that's a much smaller version than this. My grandmother used to collect bells. When she passed away, I also got a bell as well that I use sometimes. There's also tingsha, which sometimes can be used for meditation, or can be used as a musical note to denote changing parts of a ritual. So I have the tingsha here. Nice. These ones are nice. These ones have dragon on them. And then they have... and then also I have a singing bowl. This is my prized possession. This singing bowl here is made out of 7 metals. It's like an alloy. You can see it was actually hand pound. You can see the hand marks there. This is just a singing bowl. It's a really big one, so it has a really deep sound. And sometimes for bigger rituals and stuff, I'll use the singing bowl instead of the bell to denote, okay, now we're going to cast a circle, now we're going to call the quarters, etc., etc. So those are just some secondary tools that you can use. And these ones are a little less spiritual and a little bit more functional. Obviously, there are just different trinkets and odds and ends and knickknacks that you need on the altar. They're not necessarily as spiritual, don't really have a spiritual dimension. So, now that we've talked about the tools, I want to talk a little bit about kind of where they come from. In the Wiccan tradition, our tools are inspired by tools used in ceremonial magic. Now, for those who don't really know what ceremonial magic is, I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but I do want to say, I want to make a distinction between ceremonial magic and what is also termed folk magic. Now, and this is directly related to tools. So, some people refer to them as high magic and low magic, respectively. High magic doesn't mean it's better than low magic, it's just a different type. So in high magic is considered to be ceremonial magic, and low magic is considered to be folk magic, however you choose to term those. Basically, ceremonial magic is magic that uses a lot of tools, a lot of materials. They go into a lot of depth research and detail with their materials. They choose the correct day, the correct time, the correct moon phase. They choose the correct stone or plant or animal or sigil or symbol or whatever. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, I practice magic too, and I do that too. And yes, in Wiccan magic, there is an element of, okay, well, I'm looking for a new job, so I'm going to perform my spell on this day, and I'm going to use this color candle. Okay. Ceremonial magic goes into a lot of detail, a lot of research, and everything is a science. So they have to do everything in a prescribed way, using the prescribed tools in a particular manner at a particular time. It's very, very, very thought out. So imagine Wiccan magic, but 10 times more detailed and 10 times more complex. That is ceremonial magic. So you find in ceremonial magic the use of a lot of tools. Folk magic, on the other hand, doesn't have as many tools. They do have, they might not, and different traditions of Wicca generally might ascribe to one or the other. So, for instance, green witchcraft or hedge witch or things of that nature might ascribe more to folk magic. They're using very simple tools that you can find, tools that you can make. They might not even be very flashy. Okay, I'm going to use a stick, and I'm going to use a stone, and I'm going to use whatever. But ceremonial magic, these are tools that are specifically made, that have specific, ways in which they are made. They are made out of certain materials, etc., etc. So it really just depends on the tradition as well. The Correllian tradition, from my understanding, seems to be predominantly ceremonial in nature. They use a lot of tools. They suggest that you use certain tools, use a lot of tools. A lot of the basic tools you'll find in Wicca, the ones I previously mentioned in these videos. However, there is a sort of more folk magic aspect of Correllianism, and so you might find certain people practicing more shamanic or folk practices where they use rattles and they use drums and they use sticks and stones and things like that are very natural. So it really just depends. And like I said, some traditions are different than others. Like I said, for instance, Gardnerian might be more ceremonial, of course, because a lot of Wiccan tools are coming from ceremonial magic. The swinging censer and the bell and the sword and the wand or the staff, those things are all coming from ceremonial magic, and they have history with ceremonial magic. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I would suggest that you do some research into ceremonial magic, maybe into some magical lodges like the Order of the Golden Dawn, and do some research about maybe the history of these ritual tools in those traditions or in those magical lodges, just to kind of get an idea of where we're coming from and why and how the tools have made their way into modern Wiccan practice. So I think I've covered most of the basic tools. If there's anything you'd like to see, anything you'd like me to discuss, just leave it in the comment section and we'll see what we can do. Signing off for now.